Today is April 10th. The Pirates take the series from the White Sox 2-1. The home opener blackout Friday was electric. But Sunday, Oneil Cruz goes down with an injury. Let's break it all down. You're listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Yins guys, thank you for listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast, where we talk all about them Pittsburgh Pirates and that. My name is Josh, and I am joined this Sunday by our friend Gary Morgan. What's up, Gary?
How you doing, man?
Doing good.
To finish that sidewalk talk, huh?
That's right. I met Gary Thursday. Well, not met him, but we connected in the same place. Met him Thursday night before the home opener, and we got to chat for a while, and we never got to finish that conversation. So here we are.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. Good times.
So Jake came in for the home opener. Listen to this story. Listen to this wild ride he had. They went. So he's in Mississippi now. They drove to Atlanta. His wife is a Braves fan. They drove to Atlanta for their home opener on Thursday. Drove overnight. Got into Pittsburgh about 10:30 in the morning, and they were here for the Pirates home opener. So they had quite the trip, but they're also visiting with family and running around, and so that's why we got Gary on here today. So it's twofold there.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. In all sincerity, it's good to get to have the extended conversation with you, because we did start some good stuff, and we've seen some new things since.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. We can't start with anything other than Cruz, right? I just can't imagine. Like, I'd like to just let's
it's
talk
your show,
about
man. You want to
talk about the elephant in the room.
You want to wreck the truck from the beginning? That's up to you, brother.
And then we'll move on to some of the better things that we can talk about here. Oneil Cruz sliding into home slide into home. And man, that was a nasty scene. My first thought was Kendall. It just reminded me of the way that his leg bent. But gosh, that's a tough play all around.
With Kendall, I think you knew right away this was pretty devastating, right? I mean, it looked like his foot had almost come off.
Yeah, I guess the thing is you could see it more. This one, you had to wait to get the angle, right? And then it was like, oh.
Even this one, though, we don't know the diagnosis yet. I know they said fracture, but it could be a hairline fracture. It could be a real clean break. It could be a nasty break that needs a plate, and screws and stuff.
Right.
Who knows, man? So like, I just caution people that are throwing out like 8 weeks is you don't know anything yet. Just let this happen.
Yeah.
What you can bet on is that Pirates are going to have to call somebody up.
That's right.
That to me, Josh, is the most interesting part right now, because with tragedy comes opportunity sometimes in baseball. And somebody that maybe wasn't going to get one soon may get an opportunity now.
We have praised from the time that they signed Santana to the time that they signed Cutch, and ever since, about veteran leadership. And I can't, like, this sort of thing, they're going to be largely in part on how this clubhouse handles something like this, where if something like this happens to last year's team, they all say, what are we going to do? You know what I mean? And they can say what they want. Like, everybody knows the answer is next man up, but whether you go out there and do it is another thing. And I think the veterans in the clubhouse will continue to keep that mindset going. And I think that that's valuable to have them there.
I think we saw that right away, man. Like, we saw Cutch gave the next man up speech right away in the locker room. Important to hear. And then I think Santana on the field, showed, hey, no matter what you think here, this catcher's taking a lot of heat. But like, I don't know. I mean, maybe he didn't handle it right. He probably should have shut his mouth and everything. But like, as far as the play goes, I certainly don't think there was any intention there.
No, I think that the problem was with what he said, and I don't know if you heard McHenry in the post game where Rob King was on there, right? I think of this right. Yeah. So he said, well, he turned and said, "What are you doing?" or something. And McHenry just under his breath, as right before he started his thing, said, "Well, I went back and listened to the tape. It certainly was worse than that." And then he went right into his thing. So I don't know what he said. I didn't actually.
He tossed an F-bomb in there. That's all. I mean, like it, and to McHenry, that makes it way worse. To people that aren't sensitive to those sorts of words, not so much, that much worse, really.
Gotcha.
Point is, he was jawing a little bit. I like that Santana just immediately, without question, just that ain't gonna fly. Somebody needs to be like that on this team, and it's great that they have a veteran. I hope some of the younger kids start picking up on things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that they're going to get from these vets that they wouldn't have had, like we were talking about just a second ago, somebody in that room to go, hey, I remember back when we were going towards the playoffs in 2013 and so went down. I mean, it's not the end of the world here. We still have some talent. Let's get this done.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we went on and on about who was going to get sent down at the beginning of the year. Was it Matthias? Was it Marcano? Was it Bay? Was it Castro? And yeah, now you're going to have an opportunity for one of those guys if you keep it infield. I know you mentioned before we hit record that it could even possibly go further than that.
I mean, the way you look at it, you got the internal options right away. Bay could slide over. Castro could slide over. They would man second and short primarily in that case. You'd still need, I think, to bring up another infielder.
Right.
To me, that would be Marcano, especially the way he's been hitting in AAA. And he's been playing shortstop. So clearly that's a position that they think he could fill. I like that for a lot of reasons. One, you can move Peguero up if you feel he's ready.
Mm-hmm.
And that might not be the worst thing in the world. And gives Marcano a little bit of a reward for the way he started. And really, he was a good actor all spring. He was really never given a true chance to win this position, I don't think. And he still played hard. So give him a shot. Or Matthias, whatever. I'd be fine with either of them. But this isn't going to be Nick Gonzalez. This isn't going to be Peguero.
No. And I mean, honestly, Peguero would have he would have it before Gonzalez.
I would imagine so.
Just for the plain fact that he's on the 40-man. I just don't. Yeah, this is for sure. I think it's going to be Marcano or Matthias. It just depends on what they're thinking and whoever comes. Well, I mean, they've been balancing playing time. Some would say terribly, others would say very well. It sure has been a balance. I know that
you go on Twitter, some atrocity's been committed every minute of every day. So.
Every lineup, and we've talked about the lineups, but every lineup there is. Today it was Connor Joe has a great game on Friday and then doesn't play the next two games, and
Friday when the lineup came out. Most of the complaints I got were, why was Connor Joe in there instead of CSN?
That's it.
So, I mean, if you're going to critique lineups every day, you're never going to be happy with one. I get it entirely. There's going to be less to be happy about now without Oneil Cruz leading it off every day. But, a couple things I like with the lineup here that could happen from this. I do think may get an opportunity to start seeing G1 Bay take over that leadoff role. If he proves he can do it up there, it may change things when Cruz does come back. Maybe you don't just automatically shove him right back in that spot. And that could, over time, lengthen this lineup out. I like the idea of that. And it's a good time to see if it's in there. We think he's got leadoff skills. Let's see. Gets Castro consistent at bats. You'll love that. I was just talking today about how difficult that was getting.
Yep.
How do you expect him to improve? It's something you're not allowing him to do.
Yeah, that's been a big thing, and I know that there's a lot of people on the opposite end of the Bay. If you do the Bay versus Castro thing, right? It's gonna start. There's gonna be Team Bay, Team Castro. We're gonna be doing the whole deal.
Always, man.
But I mean, we know on this team, you just don't have to do that. They will get balanced playing time. Unfortunately for Castro, what that looks like right now is he's not able to get any kind of consistency at all. And I just think from the way I see things, I love the things that Bay brings to the table. I will take a second to poke a couple holes in it, but before I do, I just think that the ceiling of what Castro can do on the power side of things is so much more appealing that I want to make sure that effort, like if we just don't ever give him a chance, are we now? This is going to be a comparison that I've made on here before, and when I say this, I'm very careful about it. But you're going to end up with another Jose Bautista situation. Now, here's where I say I'm careful. He's not going to become that right, not 50 plus guy, but it is a big power that could outbreak after he leaves if that's what ends up happening, if he never really gets a real shot to figure it out. He will figure it out at some point. I believe that. I don't think this is a guy who ends up not somewhere, not catching on. But the thing about Bay that gets me the most is even coming, well, he only had the one at bat today, so we can not talk about it. But when you look on Baseball Savant at the percentages, he's in the 8th percentile in chase rate. Everything out of the zone he's swinging at. I talked about it last week. It was like 40% of the pitches out of the zone he had swung at. And his whiff rate, 74th. I mean, like, he's fast, but he's been striking out. He hasn't been hitting the ball hard. He's got 2 hits, if you count the home run in Boston, that have actually landed in the outfield. And really, he had a great opening day in Cincinnati. He had a great home opener. Other than that, he only had, he had 2 hits, but one of them should have been called an error. But they don't call errors in Major League Baseball anymore. So he got a hit, and then the error advanced him to second. But really, he just got the home run in Boston, and that's it. And oddly enough, I was at both of the games that he absolutely killed.
I think, like, to some people, there's just a guy that, for whatever reason, you can't see it. And with Bay, I know there's inconsistencies there. There always have been. As far as the chase rate goes, boy, how many of those were against Lodolo? I mean, like, I think every lefty looked awful against Lodolo.
Yes, and there were like 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, so again, baseball and short sample sizes are not best friends. We know that.
Yep.
And I know you know that of all people because you had your bet on this stuff a lot. I just think sometimes you just have a bad gut feeling about a guy. For G1 Bay, the size is something that I just think a lot of people aren't really going to get over. I don't think he's an incredible fielder, especially in the infield.
I would say especially in the outfield.
I think in center field over time, there's more that I like than I don't.
Yeah.
I like that he takes charge. It's something that I don't think they've had a lot of center fielders really do.
Yeah.
Ultimately, though, if you're going to make center field a competition, it feels pretty obvious that eventually Travis Swaggerty is going to take it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I'm not 100% sure what they're trying to do with the position right now. The bat will tell the story with G1, though. And his speed is what I think is frightening. He doesn't have to get it into the outfield to get a base hit. And when you have that sort of skill set and you can steal bases, which I think in the spring he looked like he was afraid to do. And now suddenly in season he's starting to stretch his legs a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's give him a little bit of time, see what he does. I think he's got a lot of talent. His numbers are awfully consistent as he's progressed through the system. And to me, that kind of sets his floor a little higher than some people's floor. He may not have the highest ceiling as some people, but I think his floor is higher than a lot of people's. So to me, he's got a role on this team until proven otherwise. And I'm glad they're giving him an opportunity to prove otherwise or earn it.
Yeah, and I don't want it to seem like that's where I'm at because I know it has seemed that way. My pause is that leadoff spot with the fact, and it's really the one thing I've noticed more than anything is the high fastball, taking like mega hacks at the high fastball, and for a guy that could already have 10 stolen bases, if he could cut down on that and get walked, get on first, it's like a double for him. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's where I'm at because it's not only the speed. He gets very good reads. Like he's a base stealer. It's not like, oh, McCutchen's also very fast, but not a great base stealer. You know what I mean? Like it through his time. So that's the thing that's kind of getting me about the leadoff spot. Also, I just think it's one of those things where we gravitate to people and we really like him, and he definitely plays a small ball type of baseball. I don't know how tall he really is. He's listed at 6'1", and Friday night I just kept hearing, "How do you throw him a strike with that small strike zone?" And I'm like, he's taller than Cutch. He's bigger than Cutch.
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know if those listings are accurate.
I'm sure they're not, but
I will say that G1 is a guy that I'm intrigued by a few of his tools, and nobody on this team has them except for him. He's got that little water bug to him, that little agitator. He's just an irritating guy when he gets on base. It's irritating that somebody that little's kicking your ass. You know what I mean? Like when you watch like the Houston Astros and Altuve's hitting home runs off of you. Oh, it just drives you nuts, doesn't it?
Yeah,
and
except it's not
listen to the Boston
same.
Listen to the Boston announcers when G1 Bay hit that homer over the monster though.
Yeah.
They were like, where did that come from?
Yeah. Which really he's shown that he has some pop from time to time.
Right. So I'm just saying some time. As far as the leadoff spot, I don't care. Like as long as Cruz was here, I was like, whatever. He's prototypical for it though. Now is a perfect opportunity to give him that shot. That's what I'm saying. You just lost your leadoff hitter without messing with the rest of the lineup. Move him up there.
Well, there's not very many other options really.
I don't like Hayes up there.
No, against lefties, I'm okay with it. Yep.
Yeah, against lefties, I'm fine with it. But like, I don't like him up there. Leading off the game. I don't think he takes a good at bat. To be blunt with you, I think he's far too apt to swing at that slider down and away. It's been the case for a couple of years. And he's far too apt to take a strike right down the middle that he should turn around and pull like right away.
That has to be
a lot of that has to come.
I can't. I am one of the last to like lay blame this way, but I just feel like that has to be an Andy Haynes thing. There has to be something in their philosophy that says when you get to this count, let's make them throw X. And because we remember last year, it was just 3-4 guys in the lineup, constant taking fastballs down the middle. And I don't know if there's a little bit of that bleeding in, or really, I only remember it happened twice today. And I don't really remember it happening all that much where it stuck out to me. So maybe I'm just overreacting to recency.
Maybe I should clarify too. Maybe I don't mean like he takes a bad at bat, because I don't think that's fair either. I think he does take a decent at bat. I don't think he takes a helpful at bat for people that are following him in the lineup.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is there's a very specific way to attack Brian Hayes. And every pitcher that is capable of doing it does it. And if they do that, trust me, those pitches are not coming to Brian Reynolds. So it doesn't do any good to watch him take 7-8 pitches because you're not going to learn anything. Having him in the leadoff just doesn't help. Oneil Cruz does. Okay, you're going to see that tailing away two-seamer. You're going to see that back foot slider. You're going to see that up in the zone fastball. How's that velocity really look? You'll be able to time it up. You don't get that with Hayes. So I just don't like it. Bay, maybe the same problem in reverse. He'll chase that away pitch. He'll chase that high fastball. So we'll see what happens, but somebody's got to hit first.
And maybe if he goes up there in the leadoff spot, he takes the. I mean, I know like back in the day, I don't know how they necessarily treat it as much, but back in the day, we used to say, well, to lead off the game, you take as many pitches as you can so that you can get a look at things and help everybody out. The second time you get up, sure, swing at the first pitch if it's good, but the first time you might want to look at it just so you can let the pitcher work a little bit in that first inning. But maybe there's a mindset that way, and then it works for him. I don't know.
Then along came first pitch Ricky.
Yeah.
And
true.
He would ambush that first pitch fastball all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't know. There's different ways to look at it. You're really only the leadoff hitter once a game, most of the time. So it probably doesn't matter all that much.
Yeah.
But I think long and short, Bay's a project. He's not a finished project. That I'm not 100% sure if we know what he'll be yet.
Yeah. I'm there. I have a friend though who says rookie of the year because he went to the opening day in Cincinnati with us, and then we actually went to see Indianapolis and Columbus last year, and he had a home run, a triple, a stolen base, like he just had a day. And we were there on opening day, and I was like, every time you go to a game, Bay just takes off. He goes, I really like this kid. And so I told him, I texted him after Friday, and I was like, I think I had a little bit of your magic here today. Now, granted, those are the only 3 times I've ever seen Bay too, but I want to keep it going to him just because I don't want it on me. But I said something to him this morning too. I was like, Bay, and he's like, rookie of the year. And somebody else asked him, he was like, are you a Pirates fan too? He goes, I'm a G1 Bay fan. So I love it.
There you have it.
It's a lot of fun. But no, and I am too. I just find it interesting the way that we buy in on some players really for 2 games. And I looked at Jake Friday night and I said, after today, he's hitting over 300. What are you going to say? You can have 2 good games a week and be hitting over 300.
That's baseball, man.
That's
it. I think a lot of people forget that stuff, and it's, to me, it's one of the parts that makes it the most fun. I can sit and dissect one at bat, and I can really look and break down how this guy was attacked and what the batter needs to adjust in order to take that same approach next time. But you're not going to learn much in baseball reacting game to game about who stinks and who needs cut and who, you just need more data. And if you need more data, trust me, they need 20 times more data than you think you need.
Yeah. Which actually is something else that I kind of thought, and this is probably a little bit of a shorter thing, and then we'll get into the home opener and then the series in general. But I know that because of that being part of the conversation, because of it being a lot of, well, he's, Sawinski's not hitting, Castro's not hitting, Choi's not hitting, and we've got all these, but yet this guy's tearing it up and that guy and whatever, and Reynolds is going to hit 86 home runs and whatever the number is right now. I think this is a time where we kind of say, what is your ideal? And I have a number that I know of in my head and I use it every year, but what is your ideal? Okay, now I can say this guy is X. As far as like how many weeks, how many games, like what is your test here to say this is what this guy is right now?
It's tough to say because, if it's consecutive, like it's all in a row. All right. That's different than if they got sent down twice and I'm just adding numbers together from their separate stops and whatnot. I generally like to see about 100 at bats from somebody before I start to really try to figure out where they are in a season, or even if I think they're progressing in any direction here or there. Again, though, like if we watch Rodolfo Castro and it gets to like week 5 and he's just around 90 at bats, I think they've done a poor job developing him because you're not really giving him a chance.
Sure.
And I'm not sure that 100 mark would still mean the same thing stretched out that much. You get
That's
what I'm
true.
saying?
Yeah. So even as a team, because we're sitting here right now looking like, hey, we're a good ball club. You know, we're 6-3, right? We're
Yep.
we're beating a team like the White Sox, who I think I think they're a good team. Boston scored 9 runs in 3 straight games, and then just they got shut down. And boy, the first 2 games, Tim Anderson looked like you were never going to get him out.
Yeah.
And he's 0 for 4 today. Really a great job there. But for me, it's kind of the 40 game mark. And I just use that as a general, and in a situation where maybe they're not playing a guy, to me that tells me, okay, they don't believe that this guy is much more than what they're playing him. And so I use that as part of my information to kind of develop that. But I've always been kind of like a 40 game guy. I don't know what it is about that. It's more than a month. It gets me an idea of, okay, he struggled to begin, but now maybe if it's only in the last 10 games he's figured something out. Well, that means something to me. And we saw that with even Reynolds last year. It wasn't until May that he started to hit, and you started to look at that and say, okay, now we're starting to see Reynolds, and since we already knew what he was, we kind of were waiting for that. Where some of these guys we don't know, like Bay and Castro, I think we have a general idea of what he looks like when he's going good. And I think it can get better for sure, but we know what going good looks like for him. I think we saw it for a clip last year.
With Castro, I think we need to see something from the left side. That's been the problem. And he got a lot of opportunities to hit right-handed last year as well, where he really, really stacked up some of those numbers. To me, that's going to be the problem. That tells you whether Rodolfo Castro is an everyday player or some guy who's going to eventually be on the bench as a mostly right-handed option.
Sure.
And I think he'll always have an MLB job. Like you were saying earlier, the power is not fake. He's a 20-25, maybe 30 on the high end home run guy.
Yeah, I think if it clicks, yeah.
And it may not be here if we don't give him a chance, but something's got to click left-handed for that to be the case.
Sure.
So that's what they should be focusing on. And 40 games, if he's played 20 of them, okay, I'll take a look at it. You're talking about a quarter of a season. I like breaking it down right around there. That's fine. It's just it's up to the management to make sure that they're actually getting a look at some of those things. And while there's nothing good about the Cruz injury, if you want to ease the pain a bit, well, we probably weren't winning a playoffs game this year anyway.
Yeah.
And now we get to see some of these kids.
Yeah. And you get to see who's going to be kind of pushing for that, or who Nick Gonzalez is going to take over. You know what I mean? Or whatever, however you want to look at it. Yeah, for sure. So I think that's interesting to me because I know that we have a lot of knee-jerk reactions. And trust me, I'm not saying don't have knee-jerk reactions because they're fun in and of themselves. So, it is what it is. But I always find that interesting is when do you actually say, and Sawinski's a good example for me because it's same thing goes for me as far as the power. It is real. And I think there's more there. It looked to me in the spring that there was something specific he was working on, maybe just seeing pitches because he took a lot of pitches. And I wonder if it's just the idea of understanding the zone and then giving him the green light. It's not going to happen right away. But he has had better at bats lately. And I have seen less of the... I'm going to actually... Let's click that because I feel like I've seen less of the chase. 87th percentile in chase rate. He is absolutely not chasing as much as we would like to believe. So
yeah, he's missing in the zone, I think, a little bit more than you'd like to see. And I mean, that tells you something's off mechanically.
Yeah, even whiff percentage is in the 6th percentile, like as far as swing and miss.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's been taking a lot. He's walking now. He's still hitting barrel. It just hasn't really gotten. I mean, even there's more red than you would think when you look at his.
He hit a couple balls hard just today.
He did, yeah, and one of them with 2 strikes, and was down 0-2 in that at bat.
He made the team not because of what he did in spring. He made the team because of what he did last year.
Yep.
And I don't know why everybody thinks that baseball has to be fair all the time. You know, is it fair to Travis Swaggerty? Like, no. Is it fair that Oneil Cruz just got hurt? No. I mean, it's not fair how you get your opportunity. And you can't hate one player because he happens to have it.
That's right.
You know? Jack Sawinski is going to get a shot here. You can't look at those home runs and that number of at-bats and not think of what it would be with a full slate of at-bats, or what it could be with a full slate of at-bats.
Yeah, not everybody has to be your 3-hitter, too. And I think that there are a lot of teams built with a guy who's hitting home runs, making impact on games when he does that. But maybe the full game, it might not be an all-star, right? But he's still effective and he's still part of a winning formula.
I mean, Kyle Schwarber struck out 200 times last year and had 42 home runs and led off for the World Series.
Yep.
Phillies. You know, like
100%.
Come on now. Like, all I'm saying is ease up, let him work on it. He literally just changed his stance this year too. That's a weird thing. I think that was done with an eye towards the eye, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, trying to get him to face that pitcher a little bit more. I don't think that's what's messing him up mechanically, because he's literally just swinging his hips in and into the set position. It's just for him to get eyes on the pitch. Well, let this sweat a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. We don't want to be too quick on this, and I think sometimes that's the way we can get, especially when, hey, the Pirates are winning games, and you know what I mean. I saw a lot of like, well, season's over, Cruz is hurt. Okay, well, even with Cruz, we know who we are, and we're gonna enjoy stretches like this because they're coming. This isn't going to be the only one. I think this team will have other stretches playing really good baseball, but we're probably going to see some stretches in the way that we don't want to. I mean, it's bound to happen. You know, for one reason or another. If it is more injury related, I mean, we're looking at, you know, some impact players getting injured right now, and you know, and that's around the league is what I mean. Like around the league, sure. There. I mean, Houston's coming into town without Altuve. You know what I'm saying? Like that, it's not something that we're the only team that has to deal with that. But at the same time, it's part of everything. We're in that little stretch right now where it's going good. We can't let this make it go bad, but there's going to be other stretches. I looked at our August. It's brutal. It's the toughest month to play in a schedule, and we have a really tough run in the middle of August. So, you know, not looking forward to that month, but who knows?
I mean, maybe.
I had somebody say, so when the Pirates swept Boston, are they just that much better, or is Boston really bad? And I said, well, the Pirates last year swept the Dodgers in LA, and they won 111 games and we lost 100. So sweeping a series doesn't mean you're better than somebody.
Yeah, not usually. Not usually.
So speaking of enjoying the stretches this way, let's go ahead and talk about the home opener now that we've moved so far away from the beginning of this episode. Let's talk about the home opener and the things that you liked. I mean, for me, there was the day, the whole thing started off crazy with my family being sick. Katie, she's like, when she woke up Friday morning, she's like, I'm going to buy, and she's just wiped out like from being sick. She's like, I'm going to buy this hotel for another night and just watch the game in here and then go with you guys. And we're like, no, that's a really expensive seat. So it was interesting. We made it through, wiped them out again, And so it was a fun Saturday getting back here with everybody really tired. But anyway, had a blast at the game. And I got to say, as far as the game goes, that might be one of the better I've been to.
I mean, it was pretty historic, actually. So, I mean, yeah, it was a great game, great environment. Really thought, I think it was exactly what Cutch probably pictured. I think it was exactly what most of us have been picturing ever since we heard about it. I think we gave appropriate, equal attention to Brian Reynolds, and Mitch Keller got his flowers.
Yes.
And I thought Rowanzi got a nice ovation. I think people are starting to kind of catch on to some of the names and the players and who to really give it to, right? So it's not a base that has completely lost touch with who's on this team and everything. That was a good thing to see.
The Bednar introduction was comical but great too. I was really good. I thought they handled that so well.
I thought they did a good job too.
Let it air out a little bit. That was really cool.
I had a great time at the game though. Fun time the night before running into you, and man, we had a good talk there with some pseudo celebrities that we ran into, huh?
Yeah.
Good time there, and yeah, I mean, I'm glad we're continuing our talk here. Wife was satisfied; she had a great time. The only complaint I had, two of them actually. I finally remembered cash for the usher. Didn't run into an usher the entire time I was there. So I still got this $5 bill burning a hole in my pocket. And they changed the nacho cheese.
Oh.
And I can't deal. I can't deal. It's like Hills closing all over again. So
Hills. I love that. But sorry about the cheese. I mean, I still can't taste food. So, I mean, I got a whole pint of ice cream. I thought that was kind of interesting. About halfway through, I'm like, why would they sell it this big? I had my 3-year-old on my lap saying, "You're going to help me." And he's like, "I want a bite." So then I tried to lock him into the game a little bit, right? He's still 3, so that's difficult. And I said, every time he throws a pitch, you get a bite. And there was one time where they called time. He's like, "I want a bite now." I was like, "That's fair." It just called time. But it was pretty fun. Yeah, the game itself was was classic, and it has shown a little bit of what we've seen from this team this year, and that's fight.
Yeah. They will push back. I like it. And
we'd have lost that game by 6 runs last year.
I totally agree. They feel like they push each other. Both sides of the ball, they push, help the other one get up off the mat when they've gotten pushed down. And to their credit, they've come together. They really have. They've gelled into what seems to be a fabulously tight little room. So when you get an injury like that, we'll see what the dynamic does, because it changes things a little bit, in the inside of there. That maybe it shakes the belief of a few people. That's what those veterans are going to do, man. So I'm pretty pleased about the early test here, instead of maybe later when they maybe feel like they're playing for something. See how they get through it. But opening day was freaking great. Great. Yeah. I wish for once that we could get it on opening day. I'd like to kind of knock out both of those at the same time once.
Yeah. Well, we've had it a few times. I was looking back at those and trying to see which of the ones that I was trying to remember were actually opening day. I know the 10th inning Neil Walker 1-0 walk-off. That was an opening day. And there was one other that I do not remember who we were playing or when it was. But there was one other one I remember in the last 10 years or whatever. I think there was 2 or 3 where we actually got an opening day.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't happen as often. Yeah, I don't know. I kept thinking that maybe the Twins, when Moran hit the grand slam. I was thinking maybe that one was, but I don't remember.
Cincy or Wrigley or something like that, a lot more often than we get it. Like
Yeah,
to
you're
have
never
it
getting
here.
Cincy at home, so
I know that.
yeah.
And then the weather I think was at least decent. I've been to home openers where it's snowing, so
Oh yeah.
I'm certainly not going to complain about a little bit of a nippy wind in the 6th inning,
Yep.
like nothing to complain about there.
Yeah,
And
for
all in
sure.
all, a well played series, I think. You can't normally say that a high scoring game like that was well played, but it really kind of was.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, both teams were hitting. I mean, the White Sox, it felt like Rich Hill was just hanging them at the top
that was
there.
awful. Richo was awful.
I
I mean, let's
mean,
just be honest.
and that
In
was
that
most
game,
of
he
it.
was awful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
If he wasn't, though, I wonder if the Pirates have the same offensive onslaught, because you can never do that in baseball. You don't know. You don't
Right.
know that that's what they would have done had that he not been so horrific.
Yeah.
You could tell early on those hitters were not going to allow the pitching staff to ruin Cutch's day.
Yeah.
They just went ape. It was unbelievable.
I think there's something to be said about that too, because you know the feeling that when you're scoring a lot of runs and it's a blowout and you start to have those conversations, I got like, maybe we should save some for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I tell you, the Pirates have done a good job so far this year. Not that this is like something that you can do on purpose, but this is how it happens a lot of times when things are stacked against you. Is so far they've been fortunate enough that when they've scored a lot of runs, they've needed to. And when they haven't scored a lot of runs, they haven't needed to, for the most part. They've been fortunate in that way a little bit in these last couple series anyway.
Maybe it's the baseball gods repaying them for all the one-run losses the last couple of years, right?
I think we haven't lost the 1-run game yet, right?
Not yet.
3-0, I think.
Somebody told me to keep track of them this year, and I have been, and I believe we have none yet. So
there you go.
Yep.
That's perfect. Saturday was a little bit of a different story.
Yeah.
Taking. I thought I had the box scores pulled up here, but I apparently
Saturday
do not,
felt like a sacrificial game of the series. The bullpen was hurting from the Hill performance, even though Moretta and Crow got the job done. You still like couldn't have the implosion leak to the rest of the bullpen and destroy it in the Vince Velasquez game. So they probably let him go longer than he should have. They probably let DeJong go a little longer than he should have. Probably let Robbie Z go a little longer than he should have,
Yes.
But I believe all that was almost in an effort to, you don't want to lose the game intentionally, but you have to understand sometimes there's a game, yeah, we're going to let this one go in an effort to make sure we get tomorrow. And I kind of felt like that was what that whole game was starting to lean towards after they came back to 6-4 and then the White Sox got away again. You could just tell they were like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, well, then we answer with 2 back. That 7th inning was that was the dagger. Mm-hmm. The 7th inning, 5 runs, which was Zastryzny and Underwood.
Right.
And that was kind of which is funny because Underwood is as good as he was closing out the final game in the sweep in Boston, and then comes out. And I just think that's what you get. I think that's what you get from him. Sometimes it's going to go. Yeah.
Underwood is like, first of all, everybody hates him.
Yes.
Like,
yeah,
everybody hates him. And then you got people that will defend his numbers. Okay. And they'll defend his numbers like they're trying to explain to you words from the Bible. They've got a different way of interpreting them than everybody else. And they're going to bend them into whatever the heck they're trying to get across to you, right? So you look at his performances, though, most of the time, Josh, when he's coming in, he is so apt to give up runs that were left on the table for him. And then it stops just short of nicking him, right? So he may not give up the 3-run homer, He's going to give up that double that drives in the two that were on and then shut the door, right? So it looks like DUJ's numbers are all right, but doggone it, that last pitcher sure stunk, right?
Well, and that's part of it, and that's why they keep track of inherited runners scored. And when you're a reliever, that's the statistic you're looking at. At least
not Dwayne. He ain't looking at it.
It's the one he wants to improve, but he's not going to. If I was him, I wouldn't talk about it.
That's not one he's highlighting on the back of the card.
I have been middle of the road with Underwood throughout this, saying don't pitch him in the 8th. Career-wise, the 8th inning is kind of the inning you don't want him in. But either way, I thought it was really interesting because you go from Friday night letting Rich Hill go and continue to stay in the game despite giving up the same 5 runs in the 3 innings, and then letting him go all the way to the 5th. Now, he didn't get an out in the 5th, but he was all the way. He was there until he gave up the 2 runs in the 5th. And then the same for Velasquez, giving up, well, except his 1 run was in the 2nd inning instead of the 1st. But then he gave up the 4 runs in the 3rd inning, you know what I mean? And that was it. We were done. And looking at that, knowing that we had 3 pitchers throw, because Moretta then threw he threw the 5th, then got the 6th, and then Crow went the whole way.
Yeah.
And so you kind of thought, wow, we really dodged one there in a sense of saying you got to let this, this game kind of happen. And then the same sort of thing happened the very next day. And we went ahead and we threw 5 pitchers, which I guess could be worse, but we ended up with 5. Jose Hernandez coming in for the last 2. And I mean, what do you have? 10 or 20 pitches, like 10 pitches an inning.
Yeah, he looked great. That's what
21
I mean.
It says so.
Even in bad games right now, you're getting to see some good performances from some people who could matter.
Yeah.
And I think that's why this whole year is going to be more fun. At first, I think they're just going to be in more games. I really do. But there's definitely some fruit that, if it isn't rotten, it's certainly a little overripe that they're going to have to probably keep an eye on and move on from at some point here. But I think for now, I'll go all the way back to what I said at the beginning. You got to separate those 2 in the rotation. Has to happen. I think it's a death sentence for the bullpen to have those 2 back-to-back the way they're going right now.
Yeah, that's very true. And then Sunday is a complete opposite. Oviedo, I mean, he looked as good as, certainly as good as we've ever seen him.
Yeah, he looked about as good as he did after the first inning in Boston.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been lights out ever since. I don't know what somebody said to him before the 2nd inning began in Boston. I don't know who it was, but whoever it is, say it again and say it to someone else. And no, whatever it is that clicked, boy, it stuck. He looks like a different pitcher. Looks confident. And it's something that I've never really seen with Oviedo. I've seen success, but I'm seeing confidence now. He looks like he knows where it's going, and that's something he has never been able to do. So, positive signs and important, especially with them being a little short in that department right now.
Yeah, and I think it goes to even, after seeing the body of work at least there, you kind of wonder, was it really a bad first inning in Boston, or could you chalk that up to something like nerves? Chalk that up to something like, you thought, I don't know. Just like it's one of those things. It was 1 inning.
They'd know better. They'd know better than us, man.
Sure. Yeah.
And I mean, he a couple of the hits he gave up were dinks and dunks there, and but he gave up some hard contact too. There's no denying that. It was also a really, really hot hitting Boston lineup.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
that's why, to me, he almost gets extra credit.
Yeah.
Because he didn't just resurrect that game. He shut them down, and nobody else had all year. So it's not like he had a roadmap to go back and look at. They had some kind of a plan that works against Boston. That hadn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So
and it lasted the next 2 games.
Yeah.
It went from beyond that. Bednar was good again today. You just wonder. You keep waiting for that to crack, and it just doesn't.
I'm just gonna say, if he's healthy, he's good.
Yeah.
And if he's not healthy, he's not. Let's do whatever we can to keep him healthy.
That's right. So,
please stop complaining he doesn't go 3 days a week or 3 days in a row. Please stop complaining that he doesn't go multiple innings. Please stop complaining about a lot of things in regard to the resting of pitchers, because I'm old too. I don't like it, but you at least have to understand and acknowledge that it's the best science they have to go on right now. That's what everybody's doing. Just leave it go. Keep the guy healthy. You'll like it better.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a series win.
It is. And we've got 2 out of 3 of those.
That's right.
So I have no complaints. Yeah. I think this is best case scenario for the start. I was actually quite worried about the month of April because of this stretch this week.
Yeah.
With Houston and St. Louis. The 3 against Houston and the 4 against St. Louis. This week has given me nightmares since I saw the schedule.
Yeah, and
now I'm not as worried.
And the fact that it's 2 days off. You know what I mean? You had Thursday off, and then you don't get another day off till Monday the 24th.
Yeah.
And so it's a long string of games, which is going to make the back half of those games difficult in its own way. But after you get through these next 7 games, this next week, you're looking at Colorado, Cincinnati, and then you go to LA after your day off. But the 7 against Colorado and Cincinnati are kind of let's see what those look like, especially coming home against Cincinnati after being on the road, St. Louis, Colorado, and then coming home and playing 4 against Cincinnati at home, having them already take a series from us, and then being at the end of what is 17 straight. So
I like their chances at home a lot better, but that Cincinnati pitching staff is not a joke.
Those top 3 anyway, for sure.
And they're going to get Sims back here too. And then you're talking like they're 4 deep where they have actually got some arms. So you're going to have to out hit them.
Yeah.
So
the first test is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday against Houston. To look forward to that, it's Roansy and Framber Valdez on Monday, Keller and Christian Javier on Tuesday, and Rich Hill and Jose Urquidy Wednesday afternoon. It's a 4-6 Astros team who lost the series, opened the season splitting a series with the White Sox.
Yeah.
And then lost a series to the Tigers and the Twins.
Hey, it happens to everybody, man.
But they are not going to come in like that team. Like, this is still... I really like the fact that we are going to be Roansy, Keller, Hill. I like that better.
Stretch. It's a good stretch. And I think they've got a legitimate chance at taking a couple from the Astros. I really do.
Yeah.
So
get them while they're down, right? This is good that you get a team like that, and you're hot, and they're not. And
on any given day, this team can beat anybody. That's what they need to go into every attitude with, right. And that's probably what they will do. So,
yep.
This is fun, man.
Yeah, this is definitely fun. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for. I mean, dude, I had a good time. That would have been Thursday night, just hanging. I think a lot of times when we do get an opportunity to chat, it is in a format like this. It was nice to get outside of that and just be able to say things that maybe I wouldn't say into the mic. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I mean, like the other night when you kept telling me that everything G1 touches turns to gold, I was like, I don't know if I'd say that on air.
No, yeah.
No. It's I definitely understand that, and yeah, we for sure have to. I just don't get out to Ohio as often as I used to, but I do golf over there every once in a while.
There you
so
go.
maybe I'll look you up sometime.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably make it more back that way more often, just because that's where family is and everything. So
yeah,
maybe next time I come in, we'll meet over at the North Shore Tavern again. Someday I'll be able to actually eat, and you know what I mean? Like, that'll be great.
Yeah. Yeah, you better start suggesting things like Millie's ice cream instead. Then.
Actually, ice cream, yeah, ice cream is totally good. So we should probably do ice cream next time.
Right,
it'll be warmer. It'll be way easier to do so. So, yeah, that's all I have for this week. Do you have anything else just to say in closing? Give you an opportunity for a closing statement here.
Just try to keep your head about you, but with the Cruz thing, let the news actually come out before you start, worrying too much about who's coming or how long he's gone, and realize that they have enough talent to win. If he were to take a day off, you wouldn't necessarily mark an L next to the game, would you? Well, let them show you what they can do.
Yeah. Yeah. And on that, Friday, it was a clear image of a city rooting for their team. And for that moment, for that evening, it was about McCutchen. It was about Burnett and Russ and the blackout and the team coming off of a sweep and Reynolds and all the buzz that was going on around all of those things. And you got an opportunity to forget about who's at the top, to forget about what everybody's making and root for your team. That can still happen even without that day. Enjoy these wins. Enjoy the hot streak. Sure, turn the TV off when they're cold. I don't care. But let's just, let's root for the team and not worry about who's paying them for a minute. And if you don't want to, that's fine too. But don't come at me and tell me not to. That's all.
Love it.
That's all I can say. All right. We got 2 out of 3 series. Let's go beat the Astros. That's where I'm at right now. Mitch Keller, no hitter. I'm kidding. Come on.
Let's hope, man. Let's hope.
All right, let's go Bucks.
Thanks for listening to my dad and Uncle Jake on the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bridge2Buctober. Don't forget to subscribe so you know when new episodes are released. Clear the deck, cannonball coming, and let's go Bucks!